Today I want to talk about the link between adrenal, hormonal, and thyroid health. I know a lot of times these different conditions can have a lot of overlap of symptoms, and there's a really good reason for that because they all basically have the same underlying cause, or causes, I should say. So we'll get into a little bit of that today and talk about the implications of stress on the situation, how it is basically like fuel to the fire, because the stress adds just that extra push over the cliff. Sometimes when your health is just dangling on the edge, the adrenaline piece is the piece that pushes you over. So I'm glad you guys are here today to talk about this, because this is actually kind of one of my favorite things to talk about, because of the fact that a lot of people don't realize the connection between all of these things. So there's a couple of different pieces of breakdown in the system, shall we say, that lead to this ultimate breakdown of malfunctioning thyroid, hormonal imbalance, and lots of symptoms associated with both of those things, in addition to adrenal fatigue. So today I want to talk about the fact that, let's just talk about the stress first and foremost, because I don't know if you know this, but stress is something that wreaks havoc on our adrenal glands. So when we're under chronic stress, we're not designed for that. We're designed to have a stress response that is like running away from a tiger. Our adrenals secrete this massive amount of steroids and all sorts of crazy adrenaline, and so then we are supposed to just get away from the tiger and then calm back down. But in today's world, for whatever reason, the electronics that we're exposed to all the time, the influx of information and stimulus that we get on a daily basis is something that can take us and push us over the edge, because our adrenal glands never get a chance to rest, because we're constantly in this kind of state. We now perceive a harsh word online as the same kind of threat that we used to perceive a tiger actually threatening our lives. So unfortunately, our nervous system doesn't know the difference. So it's our brain, and the way that our brain is programming the rest of the body to follow through with some responses that aren't always very helpful. So the stress interrupts all sorts of things in our body. The adrenaline fight or flight release response basically shuts down our digestion. It basically elevates our heart rate, and it takes the blood away from our vital organs, that are doing the digesting or whatever, and takes the blood to our extremities so that we're ready to run away or do some fighting if we have to. And so basically our immune system gets a little kick up at first, but then it is suppressed, because again, we don't need to fight off germs necessarily while we're fighting off the tiger. We need to fight the tiger. So in addition to all of that, things like our thyroid hormones. So there's a sort of chemical that is emitted from the adrenal glands that actually helps convert the T4 into the usable T3 in our thyroid. And so when the adrenals are tapped out from a constant pumping of adrenaline in our bodies, then this other chemical is no longer produced the way it should be. And then this is a sort of a breakdown of our thyroid function. So we have that. We have, of course, the adrenaline piece in our insulin resistance. So a lot of these symptoms that are associated with thyroid, with hormones. So what are they? They are our sleep pattern, our poor sleep, our body temperature is not regulated. We're all over the place with hot flashes and whatever else, cold a lot. So those are some things in addition to weight gain. So that's another thing that is associated with the, menopause or hormonal imbalance, and also thyroid. So again, the adrenaline attaches itself to the molecules of the insulin and also the glucose. So the insulin itself is like a key that unlocks the door to our cells to let the glucose come in to nourish the cell and give it energy. So when the adrenaline, though, is attached to that big fat molecule, then the key doesn't work anymore. The insulin will no longer open the cell because the cell perceives the toxic adrenaline instead of the insulin. And so it's like, nope, not opening up for that. So again, we have this problem that is sort of linked to the adrenals and to the stressors that is ultimately leading to these other symptoms. So similarly, our hair thins out sometimes when we approach menopause. And it's a lot of times because, again, the chemical that is produced by the adrenal glands that's supposed to keep your hair in your head is no longer being produced properly because of the overproduction of the other kind of adrenaline and those type of chemicals that are constantly being pumped from our adrenal glands. So those are just a few of the symptoms that are kind of in the same different categories. You could go to a doctor and get any one of the diagnoses based on those symptoms. So unfortunately, that's not all that's playing havoc on our bodies. So in addition to the stress factor and the adrenaline factor that's coming from the constant adrenaline coming from our adrenals, then we also have pathogens and toxins in our body that also are weakening those systems. So we have a whole host of Epstein-Barr type strains. We have shingles that are constantly living in our bodies. We ultimately come in contact with those viruses all the time. Our liver is supposed to be filtering them out, but often over time, the liver becomes incapacitated, similarly to the way the adrenals are incapacitated. And then the liver can no longer contain those pathogens anymore. They escape and they make a beeline for the thyroid. It's set up housekeeping there and prevent the thyroid from actually producing the proper amounts of the hormones that it's supposed to be producing. In addition, it can go to the adrenal glands as well and cause a similar issue there where it's making it more erratic. So in addition to that, then we also have the component of the heavy metals that are also play a part in this whole equation, because the metals supercharge the viruses, which then have extra potent powers to disable our other systems. So we have the stress factor in addition to the other pathogens and the metals. And you throw in some other things like radiation, some other chemicals that we come in contact with on a daily basis. We have those fragrances, for instance, which are endocrine interrupters. So basically, just coming in contact with a plug-in wall air freshener, it's disrupting the normal functioning of the thyroid itself, the pituitary gland, and the whole system, basically. So it's just good to be aware of that, because we want to definitely start to eliminate these types of things from our environment, from our products. If you have any self-care products, personal things that you put on your body, or use cosmetics, we definitely want to be aware of the fragrance that's in there, and then also keep an eye on some of the other toxins that are in there. So some of the things that we can do to correct this problem are dietary. We can come at the problem from a dietary point of view and start eliminating the foods that feed those pathogens that are in part causing the pathogens to go crazy and wreak havoc on our bodies. Then we need to also learn how to manage our stress. So there's meditation. I know everybody talks about meditation, and it's a buzzword these days, but I promise you that it actually does work. People are talking about it for a reason, because if we can just discipline ourselves enough to just sit down and give it a try, I promise you it will help you a little bit. So one thing I wanted to mention too earlier was the influence of the whole adrenal fatigue on the hormonal production, because after a certain age, the ovaries stop producing the hormones in our bodies, and the adrenals actually pick up the job of producing those hormones in addition. And so again, when they're fatigued and they're not working properly, our hormones can get all out of balance. So it's just so interesting how they're all related and they all influence each other. And so I hope that this has you thinking, because there's a link, and that link is something that you need to take a look at, because when we start addressing all of the issues kind of together holistically, we have a better shot at actually making a difference. Because if we just do one thing, if we just do the meditation and the mindfulness, and we don't address the food and the pathogens portion, and the attempt to also detox the metals out of our body, then we're just looking at one piece of the pie. Now, granted, that could make some impact. It could make like a difference. But again, we have to do it all holistically in order to cure yourself and begin weaning off of thyroid medication if you want to do that. Of course, any of this kind of stuff, always get the advice of your doctor. Run all of these ideas by your doctor before trying to implement. But I promise that if you start to think about all of these factors and taking the time to be more mindful, figuring out what is a routine that would work for you. You know, do you need to do your meditation first thing in the morning, or is it nice to have a little break in the afternoon where you're feeling a little bit run down with that fatigue? Because again, that's another symptom that falls in all the categories. So feeling low energy, just not yourself, moody and kind of depressed. Those are all things that result from these things being out of balance, because our feel-good hormones are not being produced by the adrenals in the way they should be either. So the stress and the pathogens and the metals and the radiation and the toxins from our environment all play a part in this. So it's just good to be aware of that, and then we can begin chipping away at the problem by little, just replacing a cleaning product, replacing a lotion or a shampoo that you use every day. All of that stuff adds up to making a difference eventually. So I hope this was helpful, and leave me a comment if in fact you liked it, or even if you didn't like it, tell me what you think about it. Of course, all of this stuff I'm saying is just something for you to aspire to. I don't expect you to make the changes in a day. We're looking for a 1% difference tomorrow from what we're doing today, and that's how we eventually cross the finish line. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and feel free to hit me up on Facebook, or my name is Kathy Merkel-Roddy on Facebook. I am Revealing the Healing on Instagram, and of course there's always my website, kathymerkelroddy.com. So feel free to just say hi, and if you want to book a free 30-minute call with me, there's a way to do that on my website too. I'll put a link below how you can do that with my schedule. So hope all is well with you. I love you guys, and we'll talk soon.